Welcome to probably the easiest to follow tutorial on how to fly the BF-109 F4 in IL-2 Sturmovik Great Battles. We'll take a quick glance at the required key bindings, joystick axis and recommended realism settings. Then I'll show you how to safely get the bird into the air and land it again. Also, we'll go over of what not to do. The F4 is the best plane to get into the Great Battle series because the engine management is quite simple. You don't have to worry about prop pitch and cooler settings. The 109 will manage all of that automatically. So even as a beginner, I'll promise you'll be in the air in no time. I made this tutorial of my own free will and without any coercion. The whole world shall learn how to fly the glorious 109, the best aircraft ever built, then and now. By no means is Heinz sitting over there pointing his Mauser at me. Heinz, that's ridiculous. Everyone knows I don't talk like that. Put the gun down, I do the tutorial anyway.
What? These are unfounded accusations, unlike the Dolchstoß.
Heinz, that's a Nazi myth. Now please put the gun down.
There's no pistole. Shut up and continue. Oops. Mit Heinz.
Okay, first of all, let's bind the main axis. Go to Settings and Key Bindings. We'll create a new custom profile here. I'll name it 109 because it'll be the same for all the 109s. Go to Plane Controls, then bind pitch, roll and yaw to your joystick or gamepad. If you need more precision around the center, you can adjust the response curves for each axis by clicking on this icon here. If you don't know what pitch, roll and yaw means, watch my How to IL-2 video first. I cover all the basics there. But let's continue. Next, scroll down and bind adjustable stabilizer pitch up and down. That's the 109's trim. It doesn't have trim tabs and instead moves both elevators. We also need flaps up and flaps down. Gear up, down, tail wheel lock, unlock, left wheel brake, right wheel brake, and canopy open, close. Now go to plane engine controls. Find engine throttle control and bind it to an axis of your choice. One last stop at pilot head control. Assign pilot head snap position center, forward, left, right, and back. I usually put them on a head with center bound to push. Then bind move pilot head forward, backward, left and right. You can bind it to the same controls you control the camera with, just with a shift modifier for example. So while holding down shift, it moves the pilot's head. You will see why that's important once we're in the plane. Optionally, assign a key to change pilot head control method or just keep it at F9. And now really the last stop at camera controls. Bind rotate camera up down and rotate camera left right. That's it. Before we leave, click on profile assignments and bind the profile to the BF-109 F4. And that's all we need for now. Go back to the main menu and click on Quick Start. Select the Stalingrad Autumn 1942 map and a free flight scenario with a single plane, like that one here. Pick your plane, in our case the 109 F4, and start in parked position. Check weather and time down there in the middle. Make sure there's no wind and set the time around midday. Also remove all enemy units. Now click on realism on the bottom right. As a beginner, I'd use the configuration you see here. Object markers and navigation markers will show you where your objectives are, so you can concentrate on flying instead of navigation. The instrument panel puts important information directly onto your HUD. TechnoChat gives you important tips on how to manage your plane on the right of the HUD. Warmed up engine means you're good to go immediately at the start of the mission, and the autopilot is your panic button if you fuck up. Just smash the A button then and it hopefully will save you. If you're having a hard time controlling your plane, you might check simplified physics here. But I suggest to rather keep trying until you get the hang of it. That's it. Hit accept and then start. Wait until the mission has loaded, now click start again. Welcome to the BF-109 cockpit. Don't be intimidated by all the gauges and levers, we don't need most of them for now. Let's first check if your inputs are working. Press P to unpause. Then press F9 or whatever key you've bound repeatedly to set the pilot head control to pan camera mode. Now look around in the cockpit. Check if your yaw control moves as expected. Rudder left means left pedal moves forward. Also, check your throttle while you're at it. It's over there on the left. If any axis doesn't behave as it should, go to the controls menu and invert it. Then check your ailerons, which means your roll. If the aileron moves up, that's the direction in which you will roll. Then look backwards and check the elevators. Elevators pointing down means you'll descend, elevators up means you'll ascend. If everything checks out positive, look forward again. Press F9 again until the pilot head control is set to fixed quick view. Now you're able to just click once into the direction you want to face and keep the camera fixed there. Go to camera settings if the transitioning is too fast or too slow for your taste. Just modify the snap settings to your liking. Now that we're set up, here's a quick overview of the instruments. Since you have your HUD down there, you don't need most of them. You can easily check your heading, the G-meter, your airspeed and your current altitude there. Here's your ammo counter. Left and right are the MGs, in the center is the cannon. The cannon indicator depletes twice, so don't be worried if you seem to run low on cannon ammo faster than expected. What might be of interest too are the fuel gauge here, the compass there, and these lights on the lower left. They turn green if your gear is down and red if it's retracted. You might also keep an eye on your coolant temperature. The cooler your engine, the more power you can squeeze out of it. Alright, center view again. Let's start the engine. Press E and wait until the propeller is spinning. The techno chat on the right informs you about every stage of the startup process. As you've learned before, you have a left and a right toe brake. Besides their obvious purpose, they are used to turn the plane on the ground. Add some left or right rudder as needed. To turn sharply, you may unlock the tail wheel, so it can spin in any direction. Be very careful with the throttle in general, especially with an unlocked tail wheel, or you'll spin around on the ground like Heinz after he stole and drank 3 bottles of French wine. That's because of the 109's narrow track width. They've been constructed this way to fit onto rail wagons. Now, as you can see nothing. So move your head to one side to get a better view of what's in front of your plane. Slowly taxi to the runway. As long as you don't need to do sharper turns, it's advised to lock the tail wheel again. Align your plane with the runway. Close the canopy and you're good to go. Make sure you let your plane roll a few meters to straighten out the tail wheel. During takeoff, don't rev up from 0 to 100% immediately, or the 109's powerful engine will make you do the Heinz spin again. Rather increase throttle to 30 to 35% to get the plane moving. Then throttle up fully, all while applying right rudder to counter the high torque of the engine and keep the aircraft straight. 70 to 80% rudder should suffice. Gradually release it as you reach takeoff speed. Orient yourself on the right side of the runway. If it gets closer, slightly release the rudder, the engine torque will pull you to the left again. The faster you go, the more stable the aircraft becomes. Gently pull back on the stick at 200 kph. Once you're in the air, retract your gear and watch the indicators turn red. Congratulations, you've just taken off in a fully simulated BF-109. Level out your plane at 500 to 800 meters and reduce the throttle to 63%. That's the fastest you can go without any time limitations. From 63 to 83%, the plane operates in combat mode. This state of increased engine power can be maintained for around 30 minutes, which is quite a lot. Anything above that is called emergency power and can only be sustained for about a minute. It's best reserved for, well, emergencies. While accelerating and decelerating, you probably noticed that if you let go of the stick, the plane doesn't travel in a straight line. This is because the faster or slower you go, the wings generate more or less lift. As a result, the plane tends to pitch up or down. Use your stabilizer to balance the plane at a certain airspeed to make your life a lot easier. Now, you might have come across some manuals that mention settings like 1 degree stabilizer for takeoff and -5 degrees for landings, but the TechnoChat only shows percentages. Look down and to the left. There's the trim wheel and a degree indicator. As you adjust the trim, it shows you the corresponding elevator angle.
Spezifikationen noch, du Depp.
Oh, that's right. Thanks, Heinz. If you ever want to know more about the specifics of your selected plane, check the specifications tab before a mission starts. Stuff like the recommended stabilizer settings are mentioned there. Now let's pull a few turns. Roll your plane to either side and then pull your stick backwards. Try to fly a turn without changing altitude. Sometimes a bit of left or right rudder helps to stay level, especially if you pull harder. If you pull too hard though, you might encounter a phenomenon called stall. This means your wings exceeded their critical angle of attack and the airflow separates from their surface, generating turbulences. Then you lose lift and your plane starts to fall out of the sky like a rock. Immediately stop pulling and recover the plane. Also, turn off your email notifications before you record a stall demo video, or the horrible events you're currently witnessing will happen. Since we're already on the ground, we can quickly go over the different loadouts of the 109 before we land it again. Bombs only are an option under special circumstances, since the 109 isn't the most stable bombing platform. The cannon pods also aren't that great, since you lose the insane climb rate and maneuverability of the 109, so they also remain a rather situational tool. More important is the armor plate behind your seat. If you remove it, you gain a lot of vision, which in my opinion is worth more than the added survivability. The 109 is a fragile bird in general, so if someone's tailing you and is able to hit a full salvo of 50 cals, you're am Arsch anyways. The armored windscreen on the other hand is okay. It doesn't impair your vision a lot, and chances are it might save your life in career mode, for example. If you get hit from the front, the engine will absorb most of the damage. This gives you a chance to glide down and save yourself. Alright, with that said, let's jump back into the cockpit and land again. Past the airfield on either side, check if the runway is clear. Then fly straight for a minute to gain some distance for a proper approach. You might also memorize some landmarks, like this river in front of us, to not lose orientation during your turn. If you're going too fast, throttle down before you slowly pull your plane around until the runway comes into sight. Start to align yourself to it and begin your approach at a speed of 250 kph. Lower your landing gear. If you're not perfectly aligned, fly like displayed here to slowly get into position. If you feel comfortable with it, set the stabilizer to -5 or -4 degrees. That's around -77% displayed in TechnoChat. I personally use -3 at max. Aim your nose at the beginning of the runway and set your throttle to around 25%. Gradually release your flaps until they are fully deployed. If you're getting too slow, increase the throttle slightly to keep your plane stable. The moment you need to raise the nose to avoid crashing, you should already be low enough to see the runway to the left and right of you. Keep an eye on it to stay oriented. Now, hover over the runway and slowly continue descending. Once you're nearly touching down, cut the throttle a bit more. At 160 kph or less, a 109 will lose lift and just drop out of the air. That's what you want right now. Pull up the nose to ensure all 3 wheels touch down at the same time. This landing here is a bit bumpy because I didn't raise the nose enough. But as they say, every landing you can walk away from is a good landing. Here's a less bumpy version with all 3 wheels almost simultaneously touching the ground. Much better. You're almost there. Cut throttle and use the left and right toe brakes to keep the plane on the runway. Then clear the area with your remaining energy and make room for others landing after you. Stop the plane, open the canopy and turn off the engine. Congratulations, you just completed your first successful flight. To help you remember all the most important things, here's a list of good practices. Lock the tail wheel while going straight or during takeoff. Use the rudder and toe brakes to steer on the ground. Throttle up carefully while taxiing. Throttle up in 2 steps during takeoff. Let the engine torque pull you back to the left if needed. Don't use left rudder for corrections. Don't descend too steeply while landing. Instead, fully extend the flaps and let the plane descend without dropping its nose more than necessary. If you keep all of that in mind, it might only take you a few tries to taxi, take off and land again. It might not look pretty at first, but as long as you get the job done, who cares? If what you just watched was helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also check out this video here for more helpful information on the topic. See you there, and until then, fly safe!